You think night is simple. Lights off, phone maybe, sleep in one solid block, wake to an alarm that feels like violence. That is the modern story of night, and it is younger than you think. For most of human history, night was not a single blackout between two workdays. It was a landscape, a sequence, a social and spiritual interval with its own weather. Before electricity, darkness was expensive to defeat. Fire helped, moonlight helped, oil lamps helped if you could afford the fuel, but the night still owned the hours. So what did ancient humans actually do when the sun left? They did not all collapse into 8 uninterrupted hours of unconsciousness like a factory schedule. Many cultures and a growing body of historical and anthropological evidence describe segmented sleep, a first sleep, a waking interval, a second sleep. In old diaries, court records, medical texts, and ordinary phrases, historians find references to first sleep and second sleep as if everyone already knew what those words meant, not as a disorder, not as a confession, just as night. In that middle watch, people were not necessarily insomnia failures. They talked, prayed, had sex, fought, tended fires, interpreted dreams, checked animals, visited neighbors, sat with the strange clarity that arrives when the world is quiet and the brain is half in another mode. Night was productive in a different currency. Here is the common belief. If you wake at 2 a.m., something is wrong with you. Your sleep is broken. Your discipline failed. Buy a supplement. Optimize the room. Force the block back together. Sometimes that is true. Sleep disorders are real. Chronic sleep deprivation is real. Anxiety, apnea, pain, shift work, caffeine, medication, and stress can absolutely wreck a person. This is not medical advice, and nobody should romanticize suffering because a historian found a phrase in an old book. But the blanket shame is almost certainly too modern.
Electric light rewired night, clocks rewired night, industrial shifts rewired night. Suddenly, the virtuous human was the one who slept in one obedient rectangle so the daytime machine could run. Your biology did not get the memo as cleanly as the factories did. Circadian systems care about light, temperature, food timing, social timing, movement, and season. Ancestral nights were darker, quieter in some ways, louder with animals and weather in others. Winter nights were long, summer nights were short, sleep flexed. Before the light switch, sunset did not mean now waste the next 6 hours. It meant the human world changed texture. Work slowed because the eyes lost power. Conversation moved closer to the fire. Threats got harder to see. Stories mattered more because stories were portable light. A dark night also changed the body. Less artificial light meant stronger signals for melatonin. Cooler air pushed people toward warmth, clothing, bodies, embers, shelter. Dawn was not a phone alarm. Dawn was a planetary event entering the room. The middle of the night waking that modern people treat as a glitch can look through a longer lens like a mode your species practiced when darkness was the default operating system. What filled those hours mattered. Story, gossip that was actually survival information, care for infants who do not respect adult schedules, watchfulness, intimacy, repairs, rituals, memory, the kind of thinking that happens when no one is performing for daylight status. Imagine a small household in winter. The first sleep comes early because the dark arrives early. Hours pass. Someone wakes, not in panic, just awake. The fire is low. A child stirs. Outside, something moves in the brush. A neighbor's door opens. There is a murmur, a prayer, a piece of bread, a remembered dream. Then later, second sleep. That does not sound like a productivity hack. It sounds like a different civilization of attention. In other words, night was not empty. Night was another room in the house of being human.
Then we filled it with blue light and unfinished loops. Your phone at midnight is not the descendant of the hearth. It is the descendant of a casino sign. It keeps threat and novelty circuits warm while pretending to be rest. The hearth gathered a small group around the same flicker. The phone opens 1,000 rooms and makes your nervous system audition for all of them. One message can pull you into work. One post can reopen status anxiety. One headline can drag a war into your bed. So you lie down for a simple night and get a complicated nervous system. The problem is not just light. It is meaning. A candle does not tell you your ex is thriving. Moonlight does not show you a stranger's promotion. Embers do not ask whether you are behind in life. The modern night is bright enough to keep us awake and social enough to keep us judged. The reframe is not sleep however you want and ignore health. The reframe is stop pathologizing every ancestral-shaped waking as moral failure. If you wake in the night and your body is calm, you may be in a human interval, not a personal collapse. Keep lights low, avoid the feed, let the second sleep come without declaring war on yourself. That means treating the wakefulness as fragile, not as an invitation to rejoin the economy. Do not blast the room with overhead light. Do not start negotiating your identity at 2:17 a.m. Do not open a portal designed by people paid to defeat stopping. If you wake in panic, heart racing, mind hunting, that is a different story. That is the smoke alarm we talked about. Treat it as signal, not as proof you are defective for needing darkness to be dark. Ancient humans also fear the night. Predators, cold, raids, spirits, illness, birth, death. Night was never pure peace. It was trade-offs.
This matters because nostalgia can lie in the opposite direction. The past was not a wellness retreat with better stars. A dark world could be beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Ancient people did not have slack pings, but they had wolves. They did not doom scroll, but they buried children. The point is not that old nights were perfect. The point is that our nights are historically strange. They did not owe their nights to an email server. You do, unless you renegotiate. So what should you actually do? Protect a darker wind down than your peers think is normal. Make the last hour before bed less like a highlight reel and more like a cave with a small fire. Dim the room, cool the room, let the day's social scoreboard close before your body tries to cross into sleep. Keep one rule sacred. Unfinished social scoreboards do not get to own the second sleep. If segmented sleep visits you, experiment carefully, not as a TikTok personality, as an N of 1 with respect for your health. Some people thrive with a quiet middle watch. Some need continuous sleep and should chase it. The uncommon move is matching the pattern to the machine you are, not the factory calendar you inherited. If you are awake calmly, choose boring ancient things. Breathe. Read something paper and gentle. Write down the thought so your brain stops guarding it. Sit in low light. Listen to weather. Let the body learn that waking does not mean emergency. And if your life demands an alarm, do not pretend you live in a cave. You live in a modern system. But even inside that system, you can give night some of its borders back. Night is not a productivity bug in your day. Night is half of the human habitat. Electricity made us forget that. Almost. If this helped you stop treating every 2 a.m. waking as a character flaw, like the video, leave a comment with what your nights are actually like. Share it with someone who fears the dark clock, and subscribe to Almost Right. We check what everyone believes and what nobody checks.